Welcome to Grounding Ascension, where we explore topics around activating and integrating our I am presence, coming back to our true selves. I am your host, Celeste Glus. Hi, friends, and welcome back. Today, I'm going to be talking about something that perhaps is not too commonly spoken about, but certainly needs a voice, and it needs to be a topic of conversation amongst more women specifically. So I'm coming to a closing of the registration for the Woman Wisdom Mentorship. And as usual, there are so many lessons and so many things that come to the forefront as the group molds and as the energy of the divine feminine begins to imprint the time that we spend together. And one of the things that has become a theme leading up to now has been this understanding of death and rebirth. It has just been Easter weekend, the 4/4 gateway, and the resurrection codes. So when I tune in energetically, I'm not only tuning into, the typical holiday, I'm tuning into the energetics behind the time and space that we're in. And that always brings with it a lot of layers of information. And I found it very interesting that I was taken into the cosmic womb recently and really asked to sit with the concept of death and life and rebirth and creation and the sexual force, and really sitting with it, sitting in the middle of it and feeling it in my body that it's really all just one. And this was a common understanding amongst many medicine shamanic practitioners in the ancient times, is that, and maybe even now, to be honest, I don't speak to shamans, so I don't know, but this understanding that these portals of life and death and creation and the sexual force, it's all one thing. It's all one thing that we give it different names because in the physical 3D reality, they look different, like different experiences, but they all come in and leave through the same portal. And so I was asked to sit with that for a few days. And, the energy and the messages continue to come in and continue to be reiterated. And with that came the reminder of my personal experience and initiation with the divine feminine, my deep, deep initiation with the divine feminine. And that to me happened via an abortion experience. Now, before I continue, I am not asking for any opinions or judgments, and neither am I placing opinions or judgments on anybody's path, on anybody's choices. That's not what this is about. I'm going to repeat that I tune in energetically and I am receiving and sharing what needs to be expressed through certain experiences. So first and foremost, really understanding that the bigger themes and the bigger things that happen in our life that mark a before and after, oftentimes, not 100% of the time, but oftentimes they are either agreed upon before coming into this life, if you believe in the multiverse and reincarnation, or there's certain timeline jumps that happen to accelerate your growth or hold you back from experiencing certain things. And so I experienced and also see amongst other women the experience of womb loss. However it happens, there's no judgment around that, whether it's a choice, whether it's by accident, whatever it is, it doesn't matter, whether it's abortion, miscarriage. The point being is that I just had a conversation and I was reminded of what I experienced and how the current institutions deal with this, and how we as women need to come together and first and foremost understand that this is a huge, huge place that we need to gather around. Meaning, I was not aware of how common womb loss was until I started speaking to more women about it. And first and foremost, it's always like this thing that you have to be hush around, right? Like it's not okay. Even though, there's this huge movement towards accepting, embracing that understanding, for the most part, at least from my point of view in society, it's not accepted to talk about it. And then on top of that, the judgments and the positions on people. But as a woman, there's a high chance in your life that you will either yourself experience it or have a loved one close to you, someone that you truly care for, experience something close to womb loss. And there are many, many, many things that a woman, I believe, needs to know, needs to understand, and needs to be almost guided through. And this is my intention with this podcast episode today, to first and foremost share with you the stream of information from the divine feminine, the dark goddess, the one energy that streams forth not only life but death, right? It's the same portal. We birth from the same portal from which we experience that death. So in essence, a woman, as part of her trajectory and unfolding the divine feminine energy within her, if it's in the cards for you, and if you've experienced this before, there is this understanding deep within ourselves, deep within our soul, that asks us to get close and walk the fine line between life and death, and to get familiar with these topics. Now, for me, ever since I was a little girl, I didn't have this belief system around death that most people do. So perhaps even the word can feel a little triggering. But I ask that you soften the corners around your energy field and your heart and your womb, and really start to blur the lines between what we see and what we don't see, and what we consider life and what we consider death, just for this moment that we spend together. And I ask that of you because there was a moment on earth that was known, and this wisdom is still kept by some people, some keepers of the realms, let's say. And so I share this because the womb loss that is happening and the way that it's being treated at this time by medical institutions is completely unacceptable. And the way that I experienced it and the way that the women around me experience it, it's just time to really rewrite that narrative and give the proper support to the women that need it. Now, this pertains to any woman who has ever experienced womb loss. So even if you've had kids since, or, you experienced it 20 years ago, or, you're experiencing it now, none of that matters. The womb is an energetic vortex with the Akash within it, meaning that it holds all information, past, present, future. And of course, anything that you experience, or perhaps in your own lineage, and these are the things that I speak about deeply in the Womb and Wisdom Mentorship, it lives within your womb. And this is where we have to honor the experience of our history and our lineages to understand that a true reconciliation, a true healing, it needs to happen within our bodies. So perhaps it's our mothers or great-grandmothers that experienced this. And of course, back in the day, this wasn't spoken about. So who knows how many womb losses we've had in our own lineages. It wasn't even allowed to be spoken about. Many women decided to erase it from their memories because it was so tragic and looked down upon. So it is up to us to start first walking that fine line between life and death as the humans, the women that hold that line. We hold that vortex within our womb, within the uterus, the cervix, the place of creation, the portal, of creation. So really coming to terms with, first and foremost, that this experience can serve, and for me it definitely served, as a deep initiation with the divine feminine. And what does that mean? So that means that through that experience, you are inevitably merging with life and death simultaneously. Right? There's something that is being birthed and created within you. And once the abortion, miscarriage, or loss happens, there's the death that comes right after it. And this is really important to sit with, because the way that the medical institutions treat it is it's just a physical thing that's removed, and then you can go about your business literally the next day, is what I was told and what women are told. And this process can take years to fully heal and close energetically. Years. Because our womb, I'll just repeat it again, is an energetic portal which holds all imprints. So if something goes through that womb, if there's an experience that happens, here specifically we're talking about womb loss, that is not energetically closed, if there's no proper seeing, sitting, honoring, and acknowledging what is happening in that womb, the traces are then passed on to our children, or they can even be reflected within our own lives. Understanding that the womb is a vortex of creation, right? And it's the one who projects the realities out into the world that we live. Understanding that if there is womb loss that is not acknowledged, and you can acknowledge womb loss years, decades after it's happened. It doesn't matter when you get to it. The point is that you actually do it. And so when it goes unseen and mistreated, like the way it's happening and it's been happening in the medical institutions on this earth, we are walking around with womb leakage. There's energetic leakage, and it's like cracks in a wall. And to really understand this, I've been talking a lot lately about the desire principle, about needing to anchor into our bodies, into the womb, so that we can really move forward in our process of evolution and consciousness and awakening, right? Like all of these things that talk about the body and the human being accelerating and moving on to this next level of understanding and consciousness, and all these beautiful gifts that we have within the human DNA. But how can we possibly talk about those things if we are not looking into the thing that's right below us, right? Which is the womb, and the experience of womb loss that perhaps you or someone in your lineage has had, and perhaps even passed down to you. So really my intention is to bring this to the forefront, as that experience could definitely be, and it served for me as a deep initiation with understanding the fine line between life and death, and how we as women can access that. And so then what does that mean? I'm not going to go into that here. I'm going to stick to more of understanding womb loss as a form of initiation itself, and understanding that that process needs to be honored like any other initiation. It doesn't just happen, right? Anybody who deals with energy understands that it has nothing to do with the way it looks on the external. It's all happening internally and behind the scenes, let's say, quote unquote. So if you're not closing that loop after womb loss, there is a gap, let's say, quote unquote, that stays inside you. This gap of emptiness, of mourning, of death, of longing, of yearning. Whether you chose to have that womb loss or not, believe it or not, the effects of the womb are the same. There's no judgment as to why it happens. It just happens. And so that sensation, that gap, let's say that hole, starts to permeate out into your life. And it takes a toll on your intimate relationship. It takes a toll on the way that you are able to intimately connect and love. It takes a toll on your ability to create and to tap into your true desire and pleasure principle. And those are just the energetics, right? I'm just also going to talk about physically, hormonally, emotionally. How long does it actually take to recover from an experience like that? Well, I mentioned before, it could take years. It could take months. It's different for everyone. It depends on your soul, really, and all of the circumstances that come with it. But really understanding that through that process, although it can be one of the hardest experiences for a woman to have, it can also be that portal of darkness that brings you into the light. And I'm not promising you that that's what your experience will be, your husband. What I'm saying is that it's an opportunity to look through the eyes of death and life and get intimate with the fragility of the mysteries that are inside your body. And understanding that the divine feminine, when we talk about womb and womb loss inherently, we're talking about the divine feminine energy. You can't not talk about those two things together. So when we're talking about womb loss, you're talking about a certain aspect of the divine feminine that's working with you and for you. And I share this to first and foremost honor the women who have experienced this, acknowledge you, and also share with you that there's a reason why you've experienced or are experiencing this. And the divine feminine has an opportunity to really imprint and impact your soul through that experience. She will teach you certain things that perhaps could take months or years to unfold. And that's just in particular to each soul. So for me, that was a turning point in my life. And it was a moment where I completely opened up to receive whatever it was that I was supposed to receive from that experience, thinking it was a linear thing, right? Thinking that, oh, I'm just going to experience this. I'll have a few days where I feel off, and then I'll just go back to business. There was never any going back. You move forward differently. And I think it's really important for women, especially those of you who are perhaps intermingled with the medical industry, to start making this more of an understanding with the women around you. To understand that the approach that we're taking that is so black and white, that is so paper and pen, is so far from what our soul yearns to experience and to receive from an experience like womb loss. So I just hope that this provides a little bit of insight to the importance of what womb loss can represent for a woman and what actually needs to be said and spoken about through that process. Understanding that there will be a need for an energetic closing. And if there isn't, and you experienced an abortion a long time ago and you never energetically close that loop. It is really important that you get curious about doing that for yourself in whatever way that feels right for you. And then get curious about how that has affected your ability to become intimately in love and connected to your partner. Your ability to create, your ability to express your sexuality. These things are so subtle. It's really easy for us to just sort of sweep them under the rug or like look over the shoulder and think that they're not affecting us because they're that subtle. But when we are in an intimate relationship for long term, they will undoubtedly come up in the way that we connect with each other, in the way that we grow in the relationship. So it is very, 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 very important for any woman who has experienced womb loss to first and foremost get curious about what the divine feminine is asking you to open your eyes to. Be open to the possibility of it being an initiation with a deeper mystery that needs to unfold within you for the coming days, months, years. And then also get curious about how that may be impacting your current intimate relationships now and your ability to express and really create what you deeply yearn for and desire in this world. And most importantly, understand that there is never any judgment on any experience. And it's always perfect. Although it could be really hard to see it from that point of view sometimes. I hope that this has shed a little bit of light within the darkness of the death and life portal in the cosmic womb of creation. And if you have any other questions or if you're curious to learn more, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Sending you lots and lots of love from the cosmic womb. See you next time. Mwah.